Hello and welcome to Getting Your Money's Worth, the show that focuses on value. I'm Judith West, and our guest this afternoon is Richard Mollot, Executive Director of Long-Term Care Community Coalition.
Correct.
Oh my gosh, I knew those C's. I had to get those C's out. Okay, well, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
It's a big title. I read about your group and you, Richard, in a letter to the editor in the New York Times when you commented on an article, a large article that had been in the Times at the end of the month, the end of January, on care for Alzheimer's or elderly with dementia. Mm-hmm. So let's go slow, but in the time slot that we have, I want to get a lot in. Your group focuses on monitoring the accountability of the nursing homes or the assisted living homes in terms of the quality of their care. Have I said it correctly?
That's part of it. What we really try to do is monitor the government's oversight of nursing homes. So we don't go into specific nursing homes. We really work with the different government entities that are involved in overseeing nursing home care to make sure that they're doing appropriate inspections, that they are holding providers accountable. And
you report back to these government agencies?
We report back to the government agencies themselves, to policymakers, to the media.
By policymakers, do you mean legislators?
Correct.
Okay, good. Well, let's go slow. Just to set the circuit straight, give us a quick difference between a nursing home and an assisted living.
Wow. That's a difficult question. Nursing homes have traditionally been very institutional settings. By law, nursing homes provide 24 hours care, 24-hour-a-day care for people. So they're generally for people who need to be monitored and or receive healthcare services for a 24-hour period, but don't have the acute care needs that would put them in a hospital, for instance. For assisted living, the promise of assisted living is that they provide a more community-like setting than a traditional nursing home. But it's for people who don't need that 24-hour-a-day monitoring. So they might need help with medication.
So the 24-hour-a-day, is that physical or mental?
It could be either or both. Oftentimes it's both.
It's both. Okay. Well, it's a big job. It's a big job these days.
Oh, yes, certainly.
I mean, and with the baby boomers, it's going to get even a bigger job. Let's go slow. I didn't know that there is such a thing as federal guidelines and standards that nursing homes and or assisted living facilities are supposed to maintain.
Well, that's a really important distinction.
Yeah, let's just go slow about that.
There are federal laws and regulations regarding oversight of nursing homes. There are no federal laws or regulations, regarding oversight of assisted living. And so that's a really crucial difference when we started to speak about how there were so many similarities.
Okay. So is that because nursing homes get federal money and assisted living does not?
Not exactly. I mean, really, nursing homes have existed for a long time. Assisted living is something fairly new that came on after the nursing home laws were promulgated. There is a lot of money that goes into nursing home care.
Federal money?
2/3 of the nursing home residents, their care is paid for
by Medicaid?
By Medicaid.
Okay.
Whereas
so
in assisted living,
of nursing homes,
that's around the country.
Right, it's Medicaid.
Assisted living, there's very little in terms of Medicaid funding, but there is some, and there is more and more, actually.
So assisted living is mostly funded by Medicare or private?
It's mostly private pay. Medicare doesn't pay for long-term care.
All right. So is there a big, let's go back then to the nursing homes. These standards, is it a standards of cleanliness, staffing, brightness of the rooms, activities? I mean, or is it the medical part itself? What is it that you're monitoring or you're assessing?
Well, we monitor all of the standards. We want to make sure that...
So is it physical?
It's quality of life. It is a quality of care. It could be physical environment of the nursing home, certainly, which plays a role in both quality of life and quality of care. It's the full gamut. Now, in some ways, they're very specific, especially say, in terms of medication management, in terms of caring for someone who has specific issues like dementia or pressure sores or other issues. And in some ways, it's more general. So there may not be very specific federal code in terms of lighting. There may be certain codes in terms of space, et cetera.
On a scale of 1 to 10, when you go in and check, what do you usually find? That's
an interesting question. No, it's a very interesting question. I would say lately usually find like a 7, 6, 7.
I think, I asked a few, I know you were coming on, and I had, with the weather, some extra time, and I asked some people, and I have to say most opinions I got from folks that I asked were very negative. I don't know, referring to it in ugly ways like, it's just warehouses, the elderly. I mean, an ugly term for a facility. Is that contrary to what you usually find?
No, that's pretty much exactly what we usually find, to some extent or another. The law, to go back to that letter, that letter talked about care for Alzheimer's and providing care, providing food, providing a nice quality of life.
And that's just to bring the audience in, there was an article that talked about simple things that seem to make a difference, like somebody having a piece of chocolate or a little bit of a port or something after dinner, or having a cup of coffee when he or she felt like it, or maybe not eating exactly at 12 noon but at 2:30 p.m. afternoon, which I can understand the schedule. But but it seemed to be so extraordinary based upon your response back to the Times.
I think, unfortunately, it is extraordinary. It's extraordinary in that it doesn't usually happen, but it's not extraordinary in that it is what the law requires. The law doesn't set up specifics. You have to provide chocolate, or you have to provide dining at certain times.
How does the law define quality of life, Richard?
It's interesting, actually. The law does, everyone's quality of life is different. What I might want might be different from what you might want.
But left alone to, without being kept busy or having some choices about how you live is hardly anybody's standard.
Well, and that's exactly where the quality of life comes into. It's giving people choices, giving people the opportunity to self-direct, giving them candy or chocolate or a glass of wine if they want to, giving them the opportunity to eat not at a set time. What happens in a lot of nursing homes is that they serve breakfast from 7 to 8. They start wheeling people in sometimes 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. People slumped over and waiting at the table hours for food. That's not appropriate. So there is that flexibility, but the flexibility is supposed to be around what the resident needs. All too often what has happened is the flexibility is around what the provider wants to give.
And what about this, and which I'm very skeptical that much of that happens. I have to say, I recently had an accident, and I was in a rehabilitation place where I was shocked at how routinized my day became. I had to really have like a nice bowl of oatmeal and not French toast or waffles or pancakes. I had to put up a big argument, and I didn't want fattening butter and syrup. And I can talk for myself.
Right.
And so in the period of time we have, I'm questioning how much choice people get. And do people who are supposedly in dementia or Alzheimer, are they able to speak to choice?
Certainly. They really are. Virtually everyone can speak about their choices or can make their choices known. And for instance, we did a study about assisted living and people with dementia. And in one of the assisted living that we looked at, there was a woman who became very agitated. She wanted to leave the facility, and it was snowing. And the facility, the nurses didn't know what to do. What they did was they put her coat on, and they found like an outdoor patio, semi-outdoor patio where she could sit, and they monitored her and let her sit there for 15 minutes. She was happy. She calmed down. She relaxed. So they didn't have to put her in a sequestered unit. They didn't have to say no, no, no.
They didn't have to tie her up or something.
Right, or God forbid, tie her up. They were able to meet her needs. She made her needs known, and they were able to do it, and it really didn't cost them anything extra. It wasn't a huge ordeal, and they were able to do it. And that's one of actually an example I'll always remember, because unfortunately it's unusual. Oftentimes, as you know, as you just said, your life becomes very routinized unnecessarily. But just to get back to your question, what is being done? The federal government came out with new regulatory interpretations about a year and a half ago that are now being enforced, and we're looking at that, we're monitoring it, we're doing trainings on it to see that go exactly to quality of life.
Are there enough people around to monitor?
That's a huge problem. There's not. We just did a study last year that looked at federal and state oversight. The federal and state governments share responsibility for oversight in every nursing home in this country that takes Medicare and Medicaid, and we found that there's just not. They've lost a tremendous amount of staff, and oftentimes the inspectors will be people that are hired from the outside. They're not permanent employees.
Maybe they don't even know what they're looking for.
It's really troubling.
We don't have a lot of time left. We're going to have you back, but I want to ask you. I want to get to something also that I've heard when I ask people, and I think you call them antipsychotic drugs. But people say, "Oh my God, people are walking around like zombies." That's the term I heard, zombies. Is that a deliberate medicated tactic to deal with less staff and to keep people quiet?
I think in many cases it is. And I think in other cases,
pretty bad, Richard.
It's terrible. And I think almost even worse is that I think it becomes part of the environment of doing that. So it's not even people purposely saying, I'm going to dope up Mrs. Jones because she's annoying me.
Yeah, it just becomes sort of standard.
It becomes standard.
I once took my mother-in-law, who had cancer, but she got getting a little disoriented, and the doctor said, I took her to a neurologist, he said, bring all her drugs. I had a shopping bag. I was shocked myself when I went to her apartment, and I showed him the shopping bag. You know what he did? He took the whole shopping bag and threw it in the waste can. He says, take her home, and let's see how she does for 2 weeks, and then you'll come back. He threw the entire shopping bag away.
Wow.
I mean, one thing counteracts another, and it does kind of produce a zombie-like thing. And it's awful.
It's contravened by the FDA. There's a big black box warning on antipsychotic drugs now for the elderly, for people with dementia, not to use. It's dangerous. So unless someone has a psychosis, they don't need it.
All right, Richard, we have the baby boomers entering retirement and getting older, and people are living. I mean, the largest growing demographic group are folks, 85 and up. What are we going to do about this problem? You do this for a living. You know better than anybody else.
Well, I hope that will shape up. I hope the industry will shape up, and I hope that will continue to push. Baby boomers. I'm a baby boomer. We demand a lot. We expect a lot. We're more educated. I think.
What about the families? And we have a minute left, but I mean, just because you have an elderly, relative or family that you put in a nursing home doesn't mean they should walk away and leave it for everybody else to take care of, does it? Shouldn't families be more proactive?
Well, just like you said, people are living to be much older. When you're 85, if you have dementia or significant dementia, it's really difficult, if not impossible, for people to safely care for those people on their own. So hopefully they could be there and be engaged in their care. But
at least show interest and speak up.
Sure, I think that's...
I mean, frankly, I said to it in a rehabilitation. My husband came every day, and just the fact that he was there, I found that things shaped up a little bit when he was there, and he would say, ask questions or something.
Makes a big difference. But of course, I always worry for people. There's a lot of people who don't have family left.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there are people that live away from their families, and many, and also there are many people whose families sort of have neglected that piece of them. Well, you have a big job. Right. Yeah, we're going to post all of this. Do you take volunteers? Do you?
We don't take volunteers. We certainly take donations.
You take donations, okay.
And we have actually an action alert. We send a lot of information, ask people to speak out. Makes a huge difference.
And people can write their congressman.
Exactly.
They can
right from our website.
Right from that's so we're going to publicize all that. We're going to ask you back as this thing grows. Can we expect something better with the new health laws that passed?
Definitely. Definitely. It's going to make a huge difference. There are a lot of really positive things for nursing home residents, for the elderly, for people who need long-term care.
All right, so listen to that, judges. right. Okay. Thank you so much for being on. We appreciate your being on. Thanks. We'll have you back.
Thank you.
I'm Judith West. You're watching Getting Your Money's Worth. We've just spoken to Richard Mollot. I want to be able to say his name and all those C's. I am Executive Director of Long-Term Community Care Coalition. Thanks for watching.